You're listening to In Other Words, the podcast. So, I know what you guys are thinking. And I know what some of y'all are out there saying. But, like I said in my video earlier, that, they say that when it rains, it pours. However, in my life, when it rains, it's a whole hurricane. I mean, it's a whole situation, honey. So it's always something different, and it's always something that has come up that has prevented me from getting this far. I mean, and this is like, this is low tier, like I haven't even done anything yet, but I know that I'm supposed to be doing something like this in my purpose, in my overall purpose. And the devil has been busy, y'all. I mean, this Negro is trying to take me out. Do you hear me? I mean, anything and everything has happened back to back to back to back to back. And I feel and I know that when situations like that start happening, that God is about to start blessing me back to back to back to back. And the only thing that I have to hold on to is that pure belief of that, and that I'm a witness of that. And so I don't know what all is supposed to come out of all of this, but I do know that it is something that I'm supposed to be doing and something that's meant to be great, because I wouldn't be being fought so hard just to get this far. But I said all that to say thank you, and thank you for your patience and all of those that have been supporting me thus far, and all of the people that have sent me messages of encouragement and support and all of those great things. And I don't take any of it for granted, because support is so essential to all of us being great, right? So I don't take any of that for granted. And I wanted to just personally thank everybody for your love and your support. With that being said, so today's first episode is called That's My Cue. So my question to everyone is, what does that mean to you? One, because you can apply that differently. And two, when did you know that it was your cue to either start something or end something in your life? When did you know that it was your time or the time for something to either begin or end concerning your betterment, So with me, I can say I've been on a really long journey for the past 7 years. I was single for about 7 years, and untitled. I mean, I was talking to somebody, but I mean, I was out here in these streets, do what I need to do and everything like that. But, I was entitled. And, us people, we have a sense of entitlement. We want some titles. You got to call me bae. I got to be boo. I got to be the man. I got to be all of those things. But I wasn't titled, so I wasn't in a relationship. And that's good, because I was like a whole mess when I broke up with my ex, or as the story is, as he allegedly broke up with me. But, we could talk about that on another episode, about people that lie when they break up with you, because at the end of the day, the point of the matter is that we ain't together. So anyway, almost got a flashback, y'all. Jesus. So I was a whole mess when we broke up, and I needed time to really research me, right? And gather me where I was at that moment. And that was at rock bottom. And I had to be able to see myself at rock bottom in order to appreciate the steps, not even once you've made it, but the steps it takes to get better. You got to see yourself where you are. You got to see yourself in your situation and in the middle of your mess in order to see the message in it, that, hey, it's okay to be down, but you can't stay there, and you gotta get it together. And I've been on this journey to be a better person and deal with anger and deal with abandonment and deal with uh, self-esteem and all kinds of things. I mean, general things that we go through. And so it was really important for me to do something that I knew would be beneficial to my better. And this whole thing started out as a book, really. And I just didn't have the time or tenacity to invest into actually writing, because I would start and then something would happen in life. And then I was like, oh God, I just went through this. I want to include it in the book. And I was like, bro, I'm going to be writing forever. So I was just like, what can I do that's more essential and more beneficial to, where I am now as an adult and as a person. And so this is what I came up with. And I'm just thankful that people care enough to listen to me talk. But my cue for me was really, I think when I made up in my mind that I was going to move and leave Virginia, I think that's kind of like where I came to terms with getting my life together. I didn't move when I was asked to move. It was like, come to Atlanta, this is, what's going on down here. This is where you need to be, and etc. And all of that sounded really cute, but it wasn't my time. And I had so many different obligations that I was a part of that I didn't want to revisit or recycle, abandonment, because I dealt with that in my life with my family, and relationships and friends, that I would be, how rude is it to repeat that cycle and spread that cycle back to, the things that you are attached to. So I wasn't going to abandon my obligations, but I did know that it was time for me to go, because I wasn't growing. So I think for me, my cue was like when everything that I was a part of was like stable and it was really nothing else for me to do, where I was like, not just at my former church, but just like all of the other things I was a part of, even people that people's lives that I was a part of, when it was like nowhere else for me to go in that season, it was just like, all right, what to do now? Because I was just running around in circles and there was nowhere else for me to run, in order to experience growth and experience life. And I kind of made up in my mind after my last breakup that I wanted to grow in every way possible, and I was going to embrace taking on whatever situations that propelled me into growth, good, bad, or indifferent, right? So my time where I was up. And as much as it hurt to just, to make such a big step, I knew that I had to do something that was meant for my better. And with that, it was, my cue to end some relationships as well. I think one of the hardest relationships I had to kind of close was somebody that I was kind of dating. I really fell for this person. I mean, I'm talking about like one of those Mortal Kombat knock you off a cliff type fall, like a fatality, honey. I mean, I was like Street Fighter dead. I mean, just like, it was just like deep. I mean, I'm talking about, Titanic deep. I mean, it was just so crazy. Cause there was a Libra too, I'm a Libra and I ain't never dated no other Libra, bruh. And it was just like, nigga, But, it was hard. That was probably the hardest part. Because I wanted so much for us, and we got to a point where there was no much, Lord. There was no more for us. And I had to kind of come to terms with that reality. And even though we resolved as friends, it just it couldn't go any further, and I don't think that it was really meant to. Despite our flesh and our bodies probably wanting us to, go further. I don't think it was supposed to, and I'm glad that it didn't, because I think we both were very bad for each other in a lot of ways, but I think that we stayed so deep in the situationship that it kind of tied us together, because of circumstantial love. That's a word right there, child. Circumstantial love. I might have to make that a topic, honey. I had to go do some research on that one, because that's okay. We're gonna have to revisit that one. Somebody bookmark that one. Circumstantial love. We're gonna have to talk about that. But that's kind of like what it was. And I feel like when it is your cue to either move on or begin something or end something or whatever the case may be, we are human. So naturally, these things are always going to come up. You're always going to be in your feelings about something. And it doesn't always mean bad. It just means that because we are human, we have taken so much with us on these journeys that when it's time to kind of, leave that baggage behind, there's memories in that. Some of us get so comfortable in our pain and in our baggage that, we still find ourselves attached to it. And I told myself when I moved to Atlanta that I was not going to repeat the same things that I did in Virginia. And I was in Virginia for about 8, 9, almost 10 years. And it wasn't all bad. It wasn't all good either, but it definitely wasn't all bad. But I know that, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And there was just no other results coming from being in that same circle, in that same environment, in that same area and atmosphere, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, financially. It just wasn't a place where I saw myself growing. So it was my cue to go. And my date for my cue was my 30th birthday. And as cliche as that may have been, I mean, honestly, like, it really did, like, a light bulb really did click. It was just like, bruh, like, you're 30. Like, come on. Like, no more roommates, no more depending on people to take you places and do things for you. Like, you gotta grow up, like, all the way up, and mean it, and it was just a light bulb that clicked. And when I moved here to Atlanta, it was I honestly, even though I moved here and I was kind of like shacking up with a friend, I still was on my own, because the whole plot to coming here was to be on my own and to be substantial and stable and all of those great things that I look for in other people, right? So I was on my own, so it was like I don't have a choice but to make it work, so I had I've always had a different type of fight. And I tell people that all the time, like, if you have ever lost everything or almost lost everything in life, your fight, once you've made it onto the other side, hallelujah. Once you make it onto the other side of, tragedy, and you witness glory and you witness survival and strength, your fight to keep it is completely different. And unless somebody has gone through something similar, they ain't ever gonna get it, honey. So you can keep preaching and you can keep talking and you can keep writing and you can keep texting. You can keep saying it over and over and over again to the same people. But unless they have encountered such an experience and a struggle, they'll never understand why you work so hard to be the best. Why you work so hard to be great. Why you work so hard to be excellent. They won't get it because they don't know. They don't know what you've been through. They see you every day and they don't see the pain and those sleepless nights. They don't see when you were, out here in these streets alone, or when you cried yourself to sleep alone. They don't see when you had $0.000 in your bank account and you didn't know how you was going to get anywhere to make any money, or had no food to eat. Nobody sees that. They only see, you dressed up. They only see you in that pretentious state of happiness. They don't see, or they don't know, what it took for you to get there. And that's why it was important for me to take the time to go through everything I went through and take that time to grow in those 7 years. And it was important for me to leave where I was because I had to go back to those places of hurt and disappointment and abandonment and low self-esteem and insecurities in order to face myself where I am today, to be even able to talk to you guys through this kind of platform, because I understand myself now, and it doesn't mean that I've arrived, but it does mean that I'm aware. I'm very aware of the person that I am and what I represent and who I am and, who I represent. And I think that's what's really more important to me. Once you figure out, your why. And so when I ask the question about, when did you know it was your cue? It's kind of like asking, when did you discover your why? Because we all have it, right? We all have a reason. We all have a why to, why we do what we do, or the things that we do, or how we are, and what we believe in, and what we're passionate about, and what we are actively trying to achieve, and what we are actively and consciously accomplishing. We all have a reason why we're doing that. And once you discover your why, you'll be able to discover when it's your cue to make those things happen, put those things into motion. And once I discovered my why, my why for me is people. Honestly, I don't have any patience. I'm working on that. That's a work in progress. But my passion is people, and anything that I can do to help people see better and feel better and know better and, try to do better. If I can have a part in doing that or creating that change, then I feel like I've done, something purposeful. So my why has always been selflessness. Really, I've always been a genuine nurturer and a caring person, and I've always wanted people to be their best selves, no matter what. So it stems from that, and I really discovered that while I was designing, being able to do something, that takes me about 35 minutes to an hour. Maybe a little longer, depending on the project, but, typically 35 to an hour to work on something. And, that logo that I took an hour to do, for somebody else is a their whole life. They've been working their whole life to get their, business off the ground, and they just needed somebody, that one connection to make, to bring all that into fruition. And, it's bigger than me. So once I discovered my why, and then I saw that my why was not being met and fulfilled where I was, then I knew it was my cue to move out of that situation and move out of that area. Not for anything, malicious, and not to come off facetious. It was just, it was my time to go. And so I did just that. So I think in 2020, where we are now, we spent so much time wishing and thinking and dreaming and hoping and praying and asking and begging and pleading and doing all of these things, and aspiring to be something and be someone and do these things and go these places. I went to church on Sunday. Shout out to the Vision Church, Vision Cathedral of Atlanta, to Bishop O.C. Allen III. But what he simply said was that it is the year of application. It is the year of doing. Be a doer. An amazing pastor I know, D'Artamian. Oh dang, what is his last name? Well, anyway, Pastor D'Artamian, in Hampton, Virginia. That's the name of his book, Doer. But it's so actual, to put into place. What good is it to have so much knowledge and no application? What good is it to listen to sermons and listen to inspirational songs or messages and find good quotes and post amazing captions if you don't apply those things to your actual life? What good is it? What are you doing it for? What are you listening to it for? If you're going to feed yourself in knowledge, you have to feed your purpose in application. You have to do it. And I told myself that today I was going to release everything. And today, so many things have been a distraction against me releasing this. So I think that's basically why I'm, consciously okay when things happen and arise, because I know that there's something bigger and better that's supposed to come of it. And I know that that is why it's such a struggle sometimes to make things happen. It's not because I'm not supposed to be doing it. It's because the devil knows I'm going to be great. Period. And I say that same thing to you guys out there listening. It's not that God is punishing you and smiting you, and it's not that you're not capable. It's because you are capable, and you are able, and you are powerful, and you are beautiful, and you are creative and excellent where you are, being who you are. And the enemy knows that. So why not throw everything they can, everything that he can, to discredit all of those amazing things about you. The biggest thing out of all of that is that you can't let them win. So I think it is really important, especially as we have entered into a whole new decade, and 2020, and this whole momentum of moving forward and higher. I think it's very important that we understand the power in our worth, the power in our words, and how powerful our purpose is to the world. And knowing when it's time to activate that, when it's time, when it's your, in other words, when it's your cue to be great. Whether that means leaving things alone, whether that means, deleting the threads. He had said something at church on Sunday about deleting apps, but it ain't even about the apps. It's about the hard thing, child, is when you delete them threads. When you go through those messages and you delete them threads, woo, baby, that's that's when it's real, honey. When you delete them threads, them apps, you can get them things back. But when you delete the messages, honey, it's a wrap. I mean, it's over. And but that's, hey, Sometimes you got to do that. Sometimes it's the cue. It's your cue to do that. And it's all meant for your better. So basically, in other words, I want to tell you guys that I believe that this is the year of application. This is, your year of being more of a doer. And it's your it's your cue to start those businesses, to maybe end those bad relationships, maybe to see professional help, to fix or to go and discover the trauma, and the things that has corrupted you from being better and has halted you from being your best self. Bishop Allen says it all the time. We only have met you. We meet people at certain points in their lives. We've only met you, when you're tired, when you're angry, when you're aggravated, when but not too many people have met you at your best self. And it's because you haven't healed. It's because it was your cue last June, but you stayed until September, and now you stuck in something that you can't get out of, because now you don't invest in more time, you don't invest in more coin, you don't invest in more emotions and mental anguish and all these other things, and basically now you're stuck. And this is not the year to be stuck, and this is not your year and your time to be stuck. This is your time to grow and gather all of those things that you have been thinking about and dreaming about and hoping about and wishing about and praying for, and applying them to your life where you are today. So that's all I got for episode 1 of my first podcast, In Other Words. I wanted to give you guys like a song of the week to kind of meditate to, but maybe I'll get around to that on the next go around. Let me plan it out some more, because I ain't got time to be paying nobody for no copyright infringement, because anybody go down like that, because you ain't gonna get nothing from me but a car from CarMax if I can use my discount and give it to you. So all I can do is hope that you guys have enjoyed this little light conversation and introduction from me. You guys can follow the podcast right now on YouTube. The page and the channel, of course, is called In Other Words. If you want to find me on social media, you can also follow our Facebook page. I said our like it's me and some other people. See, that's what I'm talking about. These voices in your head, child, they just be popping out. It's be like, this is our shit. But you can follow the page on Facebook. It's called In Other Words. And on Instagram, it's In Other Words Talk. So that's at In Other Words Talk. And it's all together. And you can follow there and listen there. And I hope to bring you guys some content and things that, will be insightful and conversation starters and things that we can do to grow together. There's room in this world for all of us to win. So why not do it together? There's no point in fighting each other. There's no fun in that. There's no love in that. And I'm not about that. I'm all about love, and I'm about happiness and discovering your best self and retaining and maintaining your peace. That's all I'm about. So thank you guys for listening. I hope to hear from you guys below on any of the comment threads. I'm gonna be looking for them. If you say something disrespectful, know that I am from Mount Vernon, New York. And I don't play none of that. So you're going to get your feelings hurt, because you're going to either get cussed out, then blocked, or just blocked. And then I'm going to hit you up from another page and cuss you out again, just because I want you to get it all together. I want you to get it together. So, no, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that. But unless you push me. But I want to thank you guys for taking the time to listen to me rant and talk. And I definitely can't wait to have some guests up here. So you guys can get some different opinions, because I love a debate, and I love being able to talk with other people and get their insight. So if you have somebody in mind that you want, or if you want to be a part of the show, hit me up. You can always email as well as those other pages and contact me there. The email address is in the link. It should be inotherwordstalk@gmail.com. And let's chat later.